the wish list. Item 2. The second morning of his seasonal job at the Stocking Dot Christmas warehouse, Alfie took an earlier bus to make sure he wasn't late this time. Predictably enough, this morning there were no traffic jams or missed connections, and he was, consequently, a full hour early. Having lost his security fob the previous day, which would have at least let him into the building where it was warm, he was stuck outside in the cold, dark December morning. He paced up and down, trying to keep warm. There was low cloud and the sun hadn't yet risen. The only light was the distant glow of motorway interchanges and the motion-sensitive security lights above the doors that came on every time he stalked past, turning off again as he moved on. That and the backlit logo high above him on the front wall of the warehouse. There was nothing else to tell you what the warehouse was, but the Stocking Dot Christmas logo was well known enough that you didn't need anything else. He pondered it, looming impassively over him as he walked back and forth through clouds of his own breath. He had always found it confusing, like some kind of optical illusion. One moment it looked like a stylized, iconographic sock. The next it was a big, rounded tick. It was, of course, supposed to be kind of both. It was a tick on a purchase chosen, an order taken, a delivery made. But it was also a Christmas stocking, a container full of wonderful things. Even these multiple meanings had a meaning. That's what Stocking Dot Christmas wanted to be, something to everyone, a place to find whatever you might want, whenever you might want it. What the founder and CEO, Piers Cramp, called a magic toy shop. It wasn't just toys, of course. The whole point was that it wasn't just toys, it was everything. But Cramp had a sort of genius for a resonant concept, and the idea had become the cornerstone of Stocking Dot Christmas's image. The ubiquitous "We've got it in stocking" advertising campaign used it constantly. Delivery vans opened up to reveal whole bazaars inside, receding into the glittering distance. Houses on a street would budge up as a Stocking Dot Christmas-themed shop appeared between them with precisely the right object in the window. The Christmas ad would always feature some sentimental story about a child searching for an obscure present for a beloved grandmother, only to discover a Stocking Dot Christmas department store that only stocked objects from Granny's own childhood. The Christmas ads also had a habit of referring to the Stocking Dot Christmas staff as elves, and depicting them as magical, jolly helpers, happily filling the country's stockings with disposable plastic tat. Standing out in the cold on a dark and drizzly December morning, Alfie was not feeling very magical and definitely not at all jolly. He was undercaffeinated, underdressed, and could no longer feel his toes. If he was any kind of elf, he was one of those glum ones from Lord of the Rings, moping about in a dank forest, singing interminably miserable songs about how all joy is fleeting and that the world was coming to an end. It did, though, fascinate him, all this talk of magic and elves, because in many ways, Stocking Dot Christmas was magical. You gazed into the black mirror of your phone like an ancient soothsayer pondering their polished scrying stone, and whispered your desires to a genie of pure electricity who would then whisk around the world in the blink of an eye, spreading the news far and wide. Then from every corner of the globe, caravans would set out, ships and trucks and planes, bringing your wishes right to your own doorstep. Next day, shipping free with premium membership, and don't forget to rate and review. But then, like stage magic, so much of that enchantment was just distraction. Was in fact unseen humans just working really, really hard. Piers Cramp might like to boast about the algorithms that understood and increasingly drove the unspoken desires of the world, of the logistics software that got everything everywhere just in time, of the robots that ran his warehouses, of the autonomous drones that 5 years from now, it was always 5 years from now, would be dropping your parcels out of the sky directly to your hands. But without the people, none of it would work. Without the factory workers, without the longshoremen, without the delivery drivers, without the computer programmers, without indeed the people in the warehouses who could fold boxes like robots couldn't. Without people like Alfie, none of it would work at all. which was, of course, why he was here, although he was here, precisely, stuck outside, because rather than being in command of these electronic spirits, he was their slave. Every moment of his working day was measured, monitored, and managed by computer. How promptly he worked, how promptly he took a break, how promptly he arrived, and how promptly he left. Even the doors were automated, only allowing him through in certain directions at certain times, and only if he had his security fob with him, which of course he didn't. Instead, he had to wait out here for someone on his shift to arrive and let him in. Fortunately, Rojny was early too and held the door for him. This was also why he was glad to open his locker in the staff changing room and find his security fob in there, right at the front on the top shelf where it definitely hadn't been the previous evening. It couldn't have been, could it? He'd had to get changed back out of his uniform when he left, so he'd been in his locker and he'd been actively searching for his fob the whole time, every pocket, every nook. He'd have seen it if it had been there, wouldn't he? Well, he'd asked the fairies to help find it, as he always did when he lost something, and they had obliged, although, as ever, in the most annoying way possible. And he knew that you always had to be polite to the little people, so he called out, "Thank you very much for helping me find my security fob." And somewhere above, high above, beyond the foam-tiled ceiling, a voice said calmly, "You are welcome."